On Friday, November 15th, Netflix and Most Valuable Promotions bring you the highly anticipated heavyweight boxing mega event of the year. Jake El Gallo Paul will go toe-to-toe in the ring against Iron Mike Tyson, the baddest man on the planet. Don't miss this epic showdown from AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. Watch Paul versus Tyson, now streaming only on Netflix.
Money decisions don't have to be either or. With Bank of America, they can be yes and. Like yes to sunny vacations and rainy day funds. Can our digital tools and guidance help you create the future you want? Yes. And help you keep enjoying today too. Do more with a bank that asks, what would you like the power to do? Explore our tips and more at bankofamerica.com/yes and.
Welcome into 49ers Access. My name is Sterling Bennett, and today we are previewing the San Francisco 49ers week number 11 matchup against the Seattle Seahawks at 105 Levi Stadium. The second time these two teams will have faced off this season. San Francisco won the first bout earlier in the year, Thursday Night Football in Seattle, and they go for their third straight season sweep of the Seattle Seahawks this Sunday, arguably, which it feels like we've been saying this for the last 3 or 4 weeks now, the most important game of the season for the San Francisco 49ers. They come in 5-4 on the season. They've won 2 consecutive games for the first time this year. Beat the Cowboys, had the bye week, beat the Buccaneers barely. The first time they've won 2 games all year long consecutively. It's crazy. Yet they're in second place in the NFC West. Meanwhile, the Seattle Seahawks are 4-5. They've lost 5 of their last 6 games. They started off 4-0. 4-0. Insane. Actually, 3-0, excuse me. 3-0. And they have cratered all the way down to under 500, but they're off the bye week. Seemingly going to get healthier. DK Metcalf is practicing this week. We'll see if he actually plays on Sunday. Abraham Lucas is back for them. A massive upgrade to the offensive line, which has been atrocious this year, protecting Geno Smith. But they're in last place. They're at 4-5, and they are desperate for a victory. And that is kind of the big storyline of this week. It's who's more desperate. And unfortunately, in the NFL, when you have 2 teams that are both desperate, right? Albeit the San Francisco 49ers are in a much better place and the Seahawks are. A 1-game difference, albeit San Francisco has looked better this year. Not just on paper, but also in the box score, to be honest with you. Which is weird to say because San Francisco's having a down year. They haven't looked like themselves, but they're getting healthy. CMC's back. Jennings is healthy again, and others. But the Seahawks, their back's against the wall. They cannot lose this game, and desperate teams are scary. That's when you see fake punts and fake field goals, and you see teams pull out onside kicks, albeit this year's different now because of the new rules, but you see desperate teams make desperate moves, desperate plays. You see trick plays. You see what a team is made of when they're desperate. And the Seattle Seahawks, I don't think, are as bad as their record says. I don't think San Francisco is as bad as their record says. San Francisco could be, 7-2 this year, or 7-3 this year. Whereas Seattle could easily be 6 wins, right? That's the difference between, if Seattle scores 1 more point against the Rams, or they get into the red zone and the end zone against the Rams, they're 5-4. And we're talking about a whole different game. These teams are tied and whatnot. So both these teams' backs are against the wall. Both these teams have to win this game, and both these teams sit in a place where in the NFC, you just watch the Commanders lose tonight. That's good for you if you're the San Francisco 49ers. The Buccaneers, Niners just beat them. That's good for San Francisco. You're kind of begging and hoping the Vikings and Packers continue to fall off and lose some games. That's good for you. And you hope you can ascend while those teams kind of come back down to earth. Where if you're Seattle, you're facing an uphill climb. You're facing arguably, at least on paper, one of the best teams in football, playing good defensively, and arguably really good defensively in the last few weeks or so. And the offense with Christian McCaffrey back might be finding life. The Seahawks, again, their backs are against the wall. And I firmly believe that this is a game where we all talk about, going into Seattle so scary, right? Anything happens. It's like the voodoo magic witch doctors come to play, and you're like, anything that can go wrong will go wrong in Seattle. I think that in this game should be applied. The San Francisco 49ers having a down year, not playing as good as they have been in previous years against the Seattle Seahawks who are desperate. That's a trap game. That's a game where, it's Seattle, third straight season with the sweep. Was it 7 straight wins they can get if they win this Sunday against Seattle, including the playoffs? That is a trap game if I've ever heard one. San Francisco special team is a disaster. And overall, this is a game you point to at the end of the year and say, my goodness, how'd they lose that game? Unfortunately, San Francisco's had many of those this year. And we're hoping this Sunday is different. We'll dive into everything. Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, everything to help San Francisco win this game. We'll talk about it. And the things that could hurt San Francisco and could cause them to lose this game, we'll also dive into in this one as well. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, leave that review. Want to ask you if you want to go to this game Sunday, 105 start, Levi Stadium. Or let's say you want to go to an NBA game this year. The Warriors are in full swing playing great basketball. You want to watch your team play, go to SeatGeek.com. Use our promo code 49ersaccess, 49 ERSACCESS at SeatGeek.com and save yourself $20 off your first purchase. Any comments you have, put them in the YouTube chat. Any questions you have, I get to every single one of those. Put them in the YouTube chat. And I want to say what's up to Papa J, always here. Hope you're having a great Thursday. Did you watch that game tonight? That game was boring till like the last 3 minutes. It was boring altogether. Joseph Ehrenberg's here saying, yo, what's up, Joseph? Hope you're having a wonderful Thursday night. But let's dive into this Niners and Seahawks Week 11 matchup at Levi Stadium on Sunday. And let's talk about the Seattle Seahawks, because the best way to win games is to know your opponent, know who you're facing, and prepare yourself for what you're going to see every single player, or at least this Sunday against the Seahawks. And let's talk about their offense for a second. I am someone that believes the Seattle Seahawks are empty calories. They want to act tough, they want to play tough, but when it comes down to it, when the going gets tough, you know they're going to blank. You know they're not going to make the one big play they need to win a football game, whether it's against San Francisco or against the Rams. They have been, at least recently, kind of in a downward spiral. They're playing bad football, the defense can't stop anybody, and the offense in the red zone is not executing, kind of like San Francisco hadn't been the majority of the season. But according to Pro Football Focus, as of Week 10, which was their bye week, so in the 9 games they've played so far, they have the 11th ranked offense in football. But again, a lot of that comes down to Geno Smith's passing yards and efficiency, when in reality, again, Geno Smith has been mid. He's been great against bad teams, and then bad against bad teams, and then not good against good teams, if that makes sense. He has been in that kind of Kirk Cousins realm, albeit Kirk's playing better as of recently. He's kind of been in this, like, we like it to get me to the 20-yard line, but I don't trust you to get me into the red zone or into the goal line. He's been just not good enough. He's been good, but just not good enough this year for the Seattle Seahawks. And unfortunately, a lot of weight's been on his shoulders this year. The Seahawks have been trying to get that running game going all year long. It's better than it was the last time the Niners and Seahawks played each other. I go back a few weeks. The Seahawks had 9 rushing attempts against the Giants the week prior to facing the Niners. And it was like, oh God, they are going to make it a point to run the football. They did for like one drive, and San Francisco stopped it, and it was okay. It was over. Then it was we're down by 2 touchdowns. Got to come back here for the Seahawks. So it's been a lot of Geno Smith, a lot of Tyler Lockett, a lot of Noah Fant, a lot of JSN, and it seems like they're going to get back DK Metcalf in this game. Maybe he hasn't practiced the last few weeks. Did practice this week though, so there's good odds he returns. But can I be honest with you for a second? Am I wrong to say that DK Metcalf doesn't move my needle? Like, there's a lot of people a lot of receivers that do, right? When he was healthy, Brandon Ayuk moved the needle. A.J. Brown moves needles. Terry McLaurin moves needles. You can go on. Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, even and many others. But DK Metcalf doesn't move my needle, and he's this team's best receiver. Maybe it's JSN now, but when you tell me, oh, watch out, here comes DK Metcalf, I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. They lock him up every single time these teams play. He's a non-factor. Outside of maybe 1 or 2 plays last year at Levi Stadium against Ambry Thomas in coverage, and it's like Ambry Thomas ain't in coverage this year anymore for the San Francisco 49ers. I just don't get the hype this guy gets. And I'm sure he's a great guy, but on the field, it's like, yeah, you're probably like a top 30 receiver, and you're probably kind of in that B- tier to me. Like, maybe I should do a receiver tier list, but DK to me is like, you're there. Cool. Papa J says here that Debo is kind of in that same tier as DK. I would agree with you as a receiver. The difference is Debo is a playmaker. Debo can do so many other things DK can't. Like, if you ask me, who would you trust, ball in their hands, game on the line? I trust Debo. He would be more apt to make a play to win you a football game or ignite the offense, right? We've seen Debo do that. When with DK, it's like once every year he has one game for 3 touchdowns. You're like, oh, DK Metcalf. And you're like, oh, but they lost. You're like, okay, great, cool, whatever. So, yes, as a receiver, I get you, but, man, I would just say that I like DK. When you're that big, I expect you to be better. When you're built like a freak of nature, he plays soft sometimes. And I like DK, but for a Seahawks fan, you can't tell me you don't want more out of your number 1 receiver. You do. And it's no shade. It's just what it is. San Francisco 49er fans this year, I want more from Deebo Samuel. I want more from, I don't know, I guess in previous weeks it was Brandon Ayuk when he got his new contract. But it's like you want more from your stars, and San Francisco stars have been playing better in the previous years than DK has been. And DK doesn't give you much outside of 1 or 2 games during the season. If he was more consistent throughout the entire year, I might say, oh crap, DK's back. Whereas San Francisco is matching with Lenore on a brand new contract and max money and deserves it and is playing lights out, best football of the entire year for him or his entire career, probably going to be in the all-pro conversation, Pro Bowl conversation. Then you have Renardo Green over here. Renardo Green looks phenomenal. He looks like Tarvarius Ward never left the field, who he won't play this week, but it's like, not to say we don't miss Mooney, we do, but I know in spite of tragedy, Renardo Green's out playing Tarvarius Ward. Like, I have more faith Renardo Green, or I don't lack faith that Green and Lenore can slow down or limit or stop DK and Jason and Lockett. Now, with that said, I do think we have to give the Seattle Seahawks credit here. They're off the bye week. They're getting relatively healthy. They're angry. They're disturbed. They want to forcibly put themselves in San Francisco's shoes and push back and fight and climb back up the rankings, right? They saw the Rams lose last week. The Cardinals won and San Francisco won. This division is still up in the air. Anybody can win it, from the Rams to the Seahawks to the Niners and the Cardinals. It's up in the air. Anybody can win it. So with that said, the Seahawks are coming in, and Geno Smith said this, that, hey, if we want to be a team like San Francisco, you got to beat a team like San Francisco. They know that, not that this is their season, but this game goes a long way into determining how their season goes. If they lose to the Rams and the Niners twice, and they're 0-3 in the NFC West, that's not where you want to be. If you're San Francisco, you don't want to be 1-3 in the NFC West. This is a massive game for both teams. I think we are going to see a slugfest this Sunday. Again, it's two teams that have to win. They need to win this game. It's a must-win for both teams. On the line, NFC West implications, NFC wildcard implications on the line. They got to win this game. We have a comment here by Glenn Flanagan. Cardinals will win the NFC West. Niners, Seahawks playing for a wildcard spot. Simply put, the Cardinals are healthier than the rest of the West. I would also add this to your comment, Glenn, which also thank you for the comment. The Cardinals, they're kind of a paradox, right? Where their defense really isn't that good on paper, but they're getting to the quarterback. They are disrupting some plays. They crushed the Jets last week. Beat San Francisco. Almost beat the Bills this year, which would be a shock. But I told everybody that Kyler Murray was in my top 10 quarterback re-ranking middle of the season. People were like, wow, what an idiot. You watch Kyler play. Now, whether they win the NFC West or not, I don't know. They'll be in the conversation for a wild card, at least for sure. They're playing that good thus far. But barring injury, like, Kyler looks incredible. And if you have Kyler, a mobile quarterback, and give you fits, and they're making big plays, they're running the football like crazy out there in Arizona. Like, the Cardinals, I don't think should be this, like, feared team, but they'll shock you. And if you don't take them somewhat seriously, they can beat a lot of good teams. Like, say the playoffs started today, there's a realm where I'd pick the Cardinals over the Packers. Like, that's a possibility. Honestly, if San Francisco played the Cardinals again, which they will soon, I don't know who I'd take. But thank you for the comment, Glenn. Want to say what's up to Rick Diaz in Chicago. I'm doing great. Love you, Rick. Thanks for joining the show. He says, no way the Cardinals win the West, but that's why we're here, Rick, talking Niners Seahawks this Sunday, because this game goes a ton into who can win the West this year. And I want to talk about Geno Smith for a second, because the Seattle Seahawks, again, they're empty calories to me. They're good, just not good enough. And Geno Smith has been turnover prone the last 4 games. I don't care about the passing yards, the attempts. I don't care. In his last 4 games, 6 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, including 3 interceptions against the Rams. And I'm sorry, I know the Rams are playing better than the 1-3 team they once were, but the Rams defense ain't good. It's Jared Verse, it's Brandon Fisk, and it's kind of nobody else. Like, they got a bunch of guys, I guess there's Quentin Lake, but they really don't have a lot of people, personnel-wise, you point to and say, oh, that's a player. They're in a rebuilding, retooling year, and Geno threw 3 interceptions against that team. At least San Francisco could say, well, special teams was terrible, you missed a field goal, or Ronnie Bell dropped a few passes. Like, no, Geno just wasn't good in the red zone in that game. They were in the red zone almost 3 consecutive times. It was like bang, 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 interception, interception, interception. Like it was an Oprah Winfrey midday special. You get a pick, and you get a pick, and you get a pick. I don't think, like, when I watch the Niners play defense, I'm like, they're getting almost to take away a game, if not 2. Geno is going to give them the ball. He did it twice against them a couple weeks ago. It was the first drive to Mustafa because Nick Bosa got home and got some pressure. And late in the game, need a drive. Green undercuts the ball, interception, clutch, San Francisco scores touchdown, game over. It's like, I don't trust Geno. And I don't think Seahawks fans do either. They like him. We all like Geno. Great guy, great story. What a redemption arc for him. But he'll keep you around 500, but he's never going to be the reason why you win. And if he is, it's like once or twice a year. Geno Smith could be the DK Metcalf of quarterbacks. That makes sense. You like him. You want him on your team, but you don't want them to be the guy for your team. But I'm not worried that Charvarius Ward's not going to play. I believe in Lenore. I believe in Renardo Green. They're both playing lockdown stuff. Even Isaac Yadam's playing relatively well. Didn't even think he wasn't, or didn't even mention his name last week because, well, he didn't need to. Now, granted, they were playing third-string Buccaneers receivers, but still, they're all playing good football, cohesive football. And even on the back end, Jair Brown, Malik Mustafa, they're not getting beat deep, thankfully, not giving up big plays. These guys are playing stout football, bend, don't break football when it matters most. I know people talk about their odd stretches late in games where they're blowing stuff, and I understand that. Dallas Cowboys game was so much closer than it had to be. Even the Buccaneers game, 3 consecutive penalties, get the Rams and they're going,
I've got a lot of grandbabies, like a lot. And when it comes to finding a gift for each of them, it could add up. But this year, while I was making my way through Walmart, I realized I don't have to spend a lot to get the gifts they'll love.
An OPI mini mani set. I'm gonna do so much nail art. Oh, yeah! A Lego set. Might own a Walla water bottle.
Ooh, and that's just half of them.
Shop great gifts they're sure to love for $25 and under at Walmart.
On the red zone, yet somehow the defense bounces back, gets a big run stuff, and turns what seems to be a guaranteed Buccaneers go-ahead touchdown into a game-tying field goal, which gives Purdy and company time to go down and kick a game-winning field goal off Jake Moody's leg. So the defense is playing great. I have a hard time believing that San Francisco is going to be anywhere near outmatched against Seattle's offense, simply because even despite having Abraham Lucas back, I am a proponent of trench warfare, trenches, and the Seattle Seahawks simply on offense suck in the trenches. The 25th ranked pass blocking offense in the NFL this year. I get it. They're getting Abraham Lucas back. I am more concerned about Nick Bosa not playing in this game. Now, Nick Bosa was a massive reason as to why San Francisco won against Seattle a few weeks back on Thursday Night Football. He was a key component into changing that game on multiple plays, whether it was interceptions or stopping screen passes against the run. It was a Nick Bosa takeover at Lumen Field a few weeks back, and he hasn't practiced all week, didn't practice today. I do think that getting DK Metcalf back for the Seahawks, cool. Getting back Abraham Lucas for you guys, cool. I am 10 times more worried that if Nick Bosa doesn't play, that's a much major factor than getting back Lucas or Metcalf. Nick Bosa is the life and blood of the defense on the defensive line. He changes games, and against a really bad Seahawks offensive line, you gotta have Nick Bosa play. He hasn't practiced all week, but he said that he pushed things a little too much last week leading into the Buccaneers game. He wants to rest all week and hope he can play Sunday against Seattle. Now, without Nick Bosa, San Francisco can still win. They will just have more pressure on them to execute, obviously, on defense. But also, when you get into the red zone, score touchdowns. So, no Nick Bosa puts so much pressure on everybody else, even if they get Yetur Gross-Mato back, which feels like that's going to happen this Sunday. It doesn't matter. You got to have Nick Bosa out there. And Tommy Huxley says here on the YouTube chat, says that if Nick Bosa doesn't play, we are cooked. You're at least half-baked, and that's not where you want to be unless you're Dave Chappelle out there in the 90s getting the horse high. You don't want to be half-baked in the NFL at all, and not a place you want to be if you're San Francisco's defense. Tom Nara says here, I have made a lot of money this season on Geno's passing. Thank God there's player bets. Yes. Usually for Geno, I always take the over. But over in yards, under in touchdowns. That's usually how it goes for Geno Smith and the guys there in Seattle. But, so Seattle's offensive line's not good. If Nick Bosa doesn't play, it's a massive loss for San Francisco, which means you got to score more points. Because surprisingly, The Seattle Seahawks rank 7th in rushing per PFF. I don't understand that. I like Kenneth Walker. I like what he can do. I think he's a good running back, but they don't run block well at all. Like, the holes he has are non-existent. It's non-existent. And they rank 21st in run blocking. Like, the offensive line really is holding the Seahawks back to a point where that's why they're 4-5. If you changed, what the Seahawks, like, if you told Seahawks fans, you have to keep Geno, you have to keep DK, what's the one thing you'd change? Can't change quarterback, can't change play caller. It's just, what's the one thing you can change? It's the offensive line. They don't pass block. They don't run block. It's just like, ugh. And that gets in the way. If you're not going to protect the quarterback, you're not going to open holes for your running back, you're going to lose games. Like, my concern isn't the Seahawks being able to put up points against San Francisco's defense. It's San Francisco's offense and special teams not capitalizing on the mistakes that the Seahawks will make, right? San Francisco against the Seahawks had their best game in the red zone all year long. I think they were like 3 for 4, or they were 2 for 3, something like that. They were great. It was 2 George Kittle touchdowns, and they finally seemed to kind of get back and find their footing. Then they lose against the Chiefs, and they're like, oh, God, it looks terrible. So this really, to me, comes down to San Francisco's offense is going to have to be the main factor. And it has been all year. In almost all their losses, the defense has given them somewhat of a chance. Somewhat of a chance. Like, Geno's going to give you the ball. Can you capitalize? The odds Seattle's offense scores 28 points is slim. Like, they're not going to outscore you. If you, like, I'll rephrase that. The odds the Seahawks can go toe-to-toe with San Francisco's offense is slim. Very slim. But, if San Francisco's offense continues their trend of missed field goals and missed PATs and getting in the red zone not scoring, that's where you get into trouble. Which brings me to facing the Seattle Seahawks defense. I've already seen some questions from Tommy in here and Bobo saying on the Richard Sherman podcast, he was going off on Seattle for releasing their leading tackler. We'll get into that here in a second, Bobo. Then we got Tommy here saying the Seahawks revamped their linebacking core. Will that help their putrid run defense? Stay tuned, my friend. Stay tuned. Let's talk about the defense here, because this is the key, right? Football, simple, score more points, win more games, right? The Seahawks walk into Sunday with the 24th ranked defense in the NFL per PFF. They are starting 3 new linebackers since the Niners saw them last. They waived Tyrell Dodson today or yesterday, which was weird. He was their starting linebacker, their leading tackler. He was one of their best pass coverage linebackers this year. Wasn't great against the run, but was at least covering relatively well. I'm not sure if there was like an internal issue, but everyone kind of said, huh? Wait, what? Why? There would have been teams wanting to likely trade for him. And they just cut him outright. It was like, here, take him, goodbye, gone. That was weird. They traded Jerome Baker to the Titans. They're going to start Tyrese Knight, a rookie, against San Francisco this week. And they went and acquired Ernest Jones IV, I believe, from Tennessee. So he's back in the NFC West. All 3 of those guys are new. No Dotson. Baker's gone. Knight's in and Jones is in. So they're redoing everything in the middle in Seattle. Again, they're desperate. These are desperation moves from a young team wanting to retool with the rookie head coach, saying, you know what? I have no ties to these players. Thus, severing those ties means nothing to me. They are, and to give them credit, they are like, whatever. If you're not going to perform, you're not going to be here. You're not going to start. I will give Mike McDonald that. I mean, hey, if that's how you want to play the game, cool. You know, if that's what you're going to do in year 1, I'm all for it. Find the guys that work for you. They signed Jerome Baker in free agency this year, said, nope, nada, gone. Like, they definitely are in this kind of awkward, like, we want to be competitive because we have the roster we have in Geno and DK and Lockett and those guys, but we're kind of trying to reconfigure things on defense. So it's an awkward year. And with the moves they've made, which, yes, Bobo, I think Dodson got picked up by the Dolphins. Then they waived linebacker David Long, I believe was his name. He's pretty good. I wouldn't mind San Francisco signing him or claiming him, but I digress. It's an all new thing. They're desperate. They have to make changes. They know, hey, if we don't, we're going to be 4-6. And at that point in time, it's like, well, I know the year's been close and everyone's kind of 500 right now, and you wouldn't be out of it, but the more games you lose like this, NFC West opponent, it gets harder to climb back up in the rankings. And look, you never know what each week holds. Guys get hurt, guys get injured, some teams are on a heater, you run into a buzzsaw. I mean, my goodness, who would have thought the Pittsburgh Steelers would be as good as they are? With Justin Fields and Russell Wilson out there cutting up dudes and just dotting passes left and right. Who would have thought, right? But here we are. Even the Commanders, 7-3 now? 7-4, I think, actually, which is great for San Francisco for them to lose. But who would have thought? Who would have thought? But that brings me to what Tommy asked in regards to the Seattle run defense. The Seahawks run defense ranks 23rd in football. If you can rewind your mind a little bit, when San Francisco played the Seahawks a couple weeks ago and it was Jordan Mason for like a half, then it was almost all Isaac Grendo and Patrick Taylor. They rushed for 228 yards. Like, guys that were unproven, rookies, although fresh legs, you don't expect to have, 100-plus yards. Grendo did that. 4th-round pick this year. Even Taylor Jr. got waived and brought back this week by San Francisco. He obviously won't play in this game, barring injury, but San Francisco was able to run all the way through the Seahawks defense, and I'm going to expect, because that's been the case the last few years, that's going to continue. If you look at Christian McCaffrey's stats against the Seattle Seahawks in 4 games with San Francisco, 90 total touches, 566 yards, 4 touchdowns. Now, I know it's game 2 back from the injury, but he touched the ball 19 times against the Buccaneers. And the Buccaneers' run defense is better than the Seattle Seahawks, in my opinion. At least they have a space-eating monster in Vita Vea up front. Seahawks don't have that. Seahawks don't have that one guy where you're like, everyone else isn't great, but that guy's a problem. The Niners really should be in a great place to continue to run the football well, establish the run. And honestly, here is a game where I'm hoping they do this 3-headed, 2-headed monster thing. I want to see CMC and Mason and Grendo back there doing their thing. You want to keep guys fresh and whatnot. You want to give the Seahawks different looks and whatnot. Mason's out there, but I don't know how serious the shoulder injury he has, because again today, blue non-contact jersey during practice. I know it's precautionary, but my goodness, man, like, if the shoulder is that bad and we're kind of just like, hey, here's 3 or 4 carries a game, why? Just sit out for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. We can survive. We survived without Christian McCaffrey for 10 weeks. We can survive 2 or 3 without Jordan Mason if it means he's fully healthy again. But if he's healthy enough to play, then get out there. And I really think this can be kind of that thunder, lightning, 1-2 power punch, even 3 power punch they can get with Grendo involved. This is a game where I think San Francisco, they're going to try to pass early. That's their thing this year for whatever reason, but I do think establishing the run is going to be pivotal. The Seahawks can tackle. They're ranked 15th in tackling this year, middle of the pack. They're a good tackling team for the most part, albeit they did cut Dotson, their highest, the guy with the most tackles on the team, so we'll see what happens with some of the young guys. But, I think San Francisco has 3 different running backs with 3, although at times similar, but different skill sets. CMC's the fluid, quick cutting, kind of fit through any hole the offensive line makes and get positive ground kind of running back, whereas Mason's the power back, lower his shoulder, get you 3 or 4 yards a carry, sometimes 5 or 6 yards on a good day, and just give you a little oomph and some power, whereas Grando's one cut and he's gone kind of guy. I want to see all 3 of those guys play. You need those kind of guys. I think that, and I would not be shocked that if Mason doesn't play, if San Francisco has a lead in this game, they want to call Jordan Mason the closer. I have a weird feeling that while CMC is going to get 19 touches again, and hopefully San Francisco is leading by 10 plus. Well, I guess in San Francisco's case, maybe 11 plus in that fourth quarter. I think we're going to see Guerrero close this game out. I think that makes the most sense. Get your fresh legs, and really going to open things up for the offense late in the game, which would be great for the Niners, and will keep them alive later on when they have a lead. Hopefully, they can preserve it. But getting to Brock Purdy, well, I do think we're going to see similar things from Christian McCaffrey in regards to touches and in regards to how he's utilized in this game. I don't expect anything less or more from him. I think 19 touches, albeit maybe a little too much. He seemed okay. There was no setbacks for him during practice, so he seems like it's 2 thumbs up. We're getting close to full systems go. Getting close to, little bit of a Top Gun Maverick, like, hey, hit them freaking thrusters and let's get out of here, which would be awesome to see. But Brock Purdy, I think, is going to be a major factor for San Francisco. Obviously he is, but the way he's played thus far this year has been season-saving. If the San Francisco 49ers had a quarterback like Geno Smith, they'd be under 500 right now. But that's why you have Brock Purdy. That's why you're going to pay Brock Purdy. I do think that Brock Purdy, because of if Mason's injured or is limited, if CMC is kind of on a snap count, it's up to him to be efficient, and mainly in the red zone. But the weight of this season has been on his shoulders all year long. And it's going to stay that way. This team needs Brock Purdy, if they want to win a Super Bowl, to be better than he ever has been. And in a game like Seattle, where you're playing a defense that he has owned his entire career, he has owned them. And Joseph in the comment section here gives us $2 via Super Chat. Thank you so much, Joseph. Love the content. Niners last in the NFC West end of year. Wow. Could I see it? Yes. Do I want to talk about it and get into it and believe it? No, I don't, because I don't want to even think about that being an option for San Francisco. But, I mean, hey, the way the season's gone, anything is possible thus far. But thank you for the Super Chat. It means a lot. And, yeah, Brock Purdy, in his 5 games against the Seattle Seahawks, he's 5-0. He has 12 total touchdowns. 12 total touchdowns. Only 2 interceptions. 1,381 passing yards. And 118 passer rating. You want to talk about elite quarterback play? You want to talk about, what does a franchise quarterback look like? It looks like Brock Purdy against the Seattle Seahawks. Everything the Seahawks have done to the Niners with Brock Purdy playing quarterback has never worked. It's not worked at all. There's been some close games here or there, but in regards to Brock Purdy's efficiency, his stats, I think one of the interceptions he threw was like a tip ball on Thanksgiving near the goal line. It was kind of this like doink pick, and you're like, darn. Okay, here's 3 more touchdowns later. Like, Brock has never been one to struggle against the Seattle Seahawks defense. And this year, with a new regime, new head coach who's a defensive-minded guy from the Ravens, Mike McDonald, I have a hard time believing Brock is going to actually struggle. Tommy says here that little doink was a pick 6 on Thanksgiving. Even if it was, I'm sure Brock the next drive went for a touchdown. So I'm like, whatever. Brock's been so good against the Seahawks in his entire career. Coming off a 350 passing yard game against the Buccaneers, which honestly, not even his best game so far this year. He has come off cold the first half, the last 2 games against the Cowboys and the bye weekend against the Bucks, kind of inaccurate, kind of just like missing high and behind and missing throws he usually makes. But that second half against the Bucks, he was awesome. And you're hoping that if he can put together a complete 4 quarters, or at least 3.5 quarters, 1 to 2 drives, you don't mind, kind of okay, you're easing into the football game and whatnot. Kind of like how it was against Seahawks last time, where you're like, okay, time to score some points. And then it was like, bang, bang, touchdown. Okay, here we go. You can't afford to have these awkward, weird first halves anymore, especially against the Seahawks off a bye week. Like Bobo says here that the Niners hired the Seahawks hired Mike McDonald because of Brock Purdy and what he did against the Ravens when McDonald was there as their defense coordinator. I wouldn't doubt it. You can't tell me that opposing teams don't look at what San Francisco does and others, right? Whether it's Niners and Stafford, or the Raiders and the Chargers and the Broncos against Mahomes, or the Dolphins and the Patriots and the Jets against Josh Allen. Like, all these teams go, okay, the fastest way to winning or going to the playoffs is via the division, right? Yes, I'm sure Seattle said, you know what? Got to play Stafford, got to play Purdy, even got to play Kyler. Like, McDonald has in previous years, or at least last year with the Ravens, owned Shanahan-style schemes. The difference is he had Kyle Hamilton and he was able to rush the passer and create havoc and get to the quarterback and get pressure and how do you linebacker play. With the Seahawks, he just cut all of his linebackers. He doesn't have this Kyle Hamilton roving or roaming all pro where he can do anything and blitz and sack and be great in coverage. Like, go watch that Ravens game.
So, you want to be a marketer. It's easy. You just have to score a ton of leads and figure out a way to turn them all into customers. Plus, manage a dozen channels, write 1 million blogs, and launch 100 campaigns all at once. When that's done, simply make your socials go viral and bring in record profits. No sweat. Okay, fine. It's a lot of sweat. But with HubSpot's AI-powered marketing tools, launching benchmark-breaking campaigns is easier than ever. Get started at HubSpot.com/marketers.
San Francisco was actually moving the football, but Kyle Hamilton was making all-pro plays. He was everywhere in that game. He was batting balls down and on the same play picking them off. And you're just like, what is going on? But I agree with you, Bobo. That probably is a reason as to why, but the Seahawks defense this year has just been not great. And you talk about Brock Purdy being so good, if they can't rush the passer, Purdy, the last time they played against the Seahawks, he wasn't sacked once and threw 3 touchdowns. Like that, to me, is like, boom. If you're not going to get to Brock Purdy, which San Francisco's offensive line has not been great, but it's been better than expected. Even Jake Brendel's playing better, although still isn't great. If you can keep Brock Purdy up and you can keep him upright with clean pockets, he'll throw for 335, 345 yards and 3 touchdowns. Like, that's what he does against bad defenses. And the Seahawks are a bad defense. Like, a really bad defense. They can't rush the passer. They're not getting home. They're not getting sacks. When you talk about how you win games, they can't protect their own quarterback, and they don't get to the opposing team's quarterback. So that, to me, right there was like, yep, that favors San Francisco in a big way. One concerning factor, though, is that Trent Williams didn't practice today. Apparently, he has an ankle issue. I'm not sure if that's like a legitimate thing or more of a, hey, coach, my ankle hurts today. Can I get some rest and see you Sunday? If I were to pick one or two of the players, I think Trent is more likely to play than Nick Bosa. But if Trent doesn't play, kind of like if Nick doesn't play, then you can throw the paper out the window. Anything's possible because you'll have Jalen Moore starting at left tackle. Now, I think Trent plays, but the ankle for Trent has been a long, lingering issue with him. I'm not sure if it's the same one, but if it is, That is a nightmare scenario for San Francisco. He practiced earlier in the week, but didn't practice today. And no, Tommy, Feliciano cannot play left tackle. Maybe Burford can, but even then, many of you out there are like, no. We saw what happened in the Super Bowl when he was playing right guard. So it feels like I think Trent plays, but just keep your eye on that. That's concerning. You can't block Purdy's backside. It's going to be a long day for San Francisco. But if that's the case, I would expect a ton of Deebo Samuel if that's going to happen for San Francisco. Deebo owns the Seattle Seahawks. Keys says here, why does it seem like we are the most blitzed team in the NFL? Is it the offensive line? No deep threat? Is it because Brock is elite against his own defenses? Well, I'll tell you this. The Buccaneers blitzed a ton against Brock Purdy, and he was darn near perfect. Brock played his best football against the blitz against the Buccaneers. When they blitzed, you got to leave somebody open. That's why Christian McCaffrey is such a big key. That last drive of the game for San Francisco, the Bucs blitzed almost every single play. And every single play, Brock had an open receiver and hit him for about 15-plus yards every single time. Like, the Buccaneers arguably lost that game because they blitzed every single time against Brock Purdy. So I do think that one of the reasons early in the year teams were blitzing was because they knew San Francisco didn't have the check down option and knew that if you kept Deebo in, if you kept Deebo, whether it's a screen pass or a bubble, whatever it is, you are taking away a player in coverage, right? So you're forcing at the time Ayuk or Jawan Jennings or Ronnie Bell to separate. Those guys usually don't separate. Most of Jawan Jennings' catches this year, he ain't even open. He's just kind of there and is like, I'm bigger and stronger than you. I'm getting it. So I think a lot of the early blitzing this year was because there was no check down option. That changes with CMC back. I do think that San Francisco, it would benefit them to throw it deep. Not because you want to get vertical and get nuts, got to have the air yards, but I think you want to keep defenses honest. It's kind of a whole mixed bag into what you're saying. All of those things are yes, and yes keys. But I think we will see less teams blitz now that CMC is back. Or if they do blitz, it'll be on certain situations and not as much as we've seen through, 10 games so far this year for San Francisco, or 9 games actually for San Francisco. Glenn asks here, how long has your channel been around? Well, I've been doing podcasts for 4 years around the San Francisco 49ers. But the channel itself with like live content and me on camera, my ugly mug on camera, was about last training camp. So we're going on almost a full year, almost year and a half now. But not very long, but long enough to make me say, hey, I'm here. But great question. People in the chat talking about the offensive line here. Move Puni to tackle, move Feliciano to guard. Can Feliciano play right guard and Puni play left tackle? Puni has been so great this year for San Francisco. He might be an All-Pro. They're not going to give it to a rookie, but if San Francisco doesn't make the Super Bowl, I think there's a realistic possibility. We're talking about Pro Bowl at least, or at least like an alternate. He's been great. Every run blocking, pass blocking, things that were supposed to be a weakness, it's like the player you saw in college. All of the weaknesses were like, I'm gone. They don't exist. It's the minute he played in the NFL, all of those things were gone. Like, just gone. He has looked incredible. He's looked better. Like, think of it this way. When Justin Herbert was at Oregon and came to the Chargers in 2020, that year with the Chargers, he was incredible. No one saw that coming. All they saw was a big-armed, inaccurate quarterback out of Oregon that you hope can refine himself and be something better. He was a project for a lot of people. day one, he was way better with the Chargers than he ever was at Oregon. Dominic Pooney is the Justin Herbert of offensive linemen at Kansas. And I get it, Pooney and Herbert, can't compare those two, but, Pooney 3rd-round pick, Herbert top 10 pick, right? But Pooney is so much better now in his first year in the NFL than he was as like a super senior in college. That's incredible. Pooney has been amazing. Steal of the draft, the godsend. This 2024 draft is the next wave of stars. They've been looking for them all year or in previous years, and they found some, Purdy and Brandon Ayuk once he gets back healthy, hopefully. But like, Mustafa's been phenomenal this year. Green's been incredible. Pooney's been awesome. Greno's had his moments too. Just another phenomenal class. Pearsall looks amazing. I saw a comment here earlier, if I can find it for a second, that asked, I think it was Papa J, that asked, how many targets do you think Pearsall will get? I think 6 or 7 is kind of the range he's currently in, but we'll dive into exactly the offense here right now to kind of give you more insight, because the odds Seattle gets to Purdy are slim. I don't think they'll be able to blitz, and don't forget, they didn't see CMC the first time against San Francisco, and San Francisco still won that game with 228 yards on the ground, and Purdy had 3 touchdowns through the air. So, very efficient day for San Francisco. And the good thing about the Seattle Seahawks is they have Witherspoon playing great this year in their secondary, but then it's like Julian Love, who is good, but isn't playing great football, or at least as good as he was early in the year. But they rank 17th in coverage. And if you look at how San Francisco's offense has fared against the Seattle Seahawks in coverage in recent years, 5 games against the Seahawks. George Kittle, 17 receptions, 243 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's Hall of Fame All-Pro. And he had a touchdown last week, too. There's not many players you say, wow, he owns them. And if you want to get crazy about it, you go to the playoff games Kittle has played against the Seattle Seahawks. 56 receptions, 808 total yards, and 7 touchdowns. That's insane. That's insane. George Kittle against the Seahawks essentially is most tight ends All-Pro years. 56 catches, 808 yards, and 7 touchdowns. Man. Wow. That's crazy. Deebo Samuel against the Seattle Seahawks. 4 games with Brock Purdy, I believe. 4 games, 35 touches, 526 yards, and 3 touchdowns. The Niners' offensive players own the Seattle Seahawks. And I don't see it stopping. I have a hard time believing that San Francisco, off a very close victory against the Buccaneers, you had to get it, you got it. Deebo was out there choking Tabor Pepper on the sideline, getting a John Boy media video out of it after the fact. This team knows, there are just teams that know how to play against other teams. For a long time it was the Seahawks knew how to play against San Francisco. That tide is flipped. Sometimes the Raiders know how to play against the Chiefs. The Niners now own the Seattle Seahawks. The Niners, their offensive players, who they have, the system they have, and the quarterback they have, really walk into Seattle and now the Sunday at Levi Stadium saying, hey, we got this. We know every step they'll make. Every move you make, every breath you take. That's San Francisco against the Seattle Seahawks. They know what's coming. They know how to beat them and play them. And despite how great Mike McDonald was last year with the Ravens against Kyle Shanahan's system, it's different. The personnel isn't the same. It's just not a good defense. It's just not a good defense this year for the Seahawks. The Seahawks defense is not keeping them in football games. It's the offense. And the offense is losing them football games. So, really it comes down to, and honestly, this is the biggest part of it, is Juwan Jennings with the mismatch, having Debo healthy and Juwan Jennings healthy, now CMC back out there, and Pearsall back in the fray. Don't forget, San Francisco didn't have Pearsall, CMC, and honestly didn't have Jordan Mason against Seattle Seahawks last time too. They have 3 players that can play massive factors into this game for their offense alone, and now you give Seattle's defense so much more to look out for. It's a long day for a defense off the bye week, already on their heels. I think it's really important for San Francisco and Brock Purdy and company to score early. It was great last time, picking off Geno in that first drive. It stopped momentum and it's tracks for them. If they get the football first or the defense is out there first, you got to get a stop. And if you score early, you instantly put the Seahawks on their heels. If you do that, a desperate team gets a little worried, they get shaken. That's an easy team to rattle early if you score a couple points, right? If it's touchdown, field goal, touchdown, the Seahawks are not a strong, mentally tough team. A few guys are. Geno is, Lockett is for sure, but outside of those couple guys, DK's not, JSN's young, offensive line's not been great. You start pushing those guys around, like, the Seahawks will quit. Like, you get up by 14, you get up by 13 points early, they start going, what's going on? They panic, they make mistakes, they feel like they have to make big plays. It's really important for San Francisco to start off hot in this game. If they do, Seattle is easily rattleable. Rattleable? Whatever. You know what I mean. Shakeable. Whatever. You can get in their head, is what I'm trying to say. But if we're being blunt, every game this year, you have to mention the terrible, piss-poor, is disgusting level of special teams being played. Thank you, Bubba here. Rattleable. Rattleable. Special teams has been disgusting for San Francisco this year. And I did some math. I did some digging. I reached back into my 5th grade calculator. The Texas Institute calculators we all used to have before they got iPhones and iPads in classrooms nowadays. God, the world's gone to crap. But San Francisco is facing the 3rd best special teams unit in the NFL in the Seattle Seahawks. Yeah, when you hear that, your heart drops. It doesn't matter how great we are on offense or defense. We can be up 20-0. Oh, kick return. Oh, muffed punt. Oh, now we're up 20-14 and we missed a field goal. God, it happens that fast every single game. Without a doubt, it's going to happen in this one too. It's going to. San Francisco had Matthew Wright out there getting like 9 points for him against Seahawks last time. Now they got Jake Moody with a bum ankle. Is he healthy? He's not healthy. Getting, hey, tighten it up, brother. We're pulling a Debo. Tighten it up. And if Tabor wants to big bro us, we're all going to go in on Tabor. You knock it off. You tell your bro to make some kicks. Please. Season's on the line, man. Rattleable. The ability to turn into a rattlesnake. That's awesome. Thank you, Papa J. San Francisco needs that special teams to be a little venomous this Sunday, and not to themselves, to the Seattle Seahawks. Rattleable. Man, like, I did some math here, and I put this on Twitter, or X, if you will. Not Blue Sky, I ain't doing that crap, but X or Twitter. Some people after the Buccaneers game, and I talked a long time about this in the podcast, but they're like, well, actually, they're trending in the right direction. It really isn't that. See, the math is mathing, Tom. You got it. The math is mathing. They're not that bad. Well, actually, trying to justify what we just watched against the Buccaneers like it wasn't that bad. So I did some math. The Niners have gone, quote unquote, mistake-free in 2 of their 9 games on special teams. This year alone, in regards to missed field goals, missed PATs, whether it's kick returns for touchdowns, poor punt coverage leading to touchdowns, muffed punts that lead to touchdowns for the opposing teams, the San Francisco 49ers special teams unit has been responsible for 51 points this year, either going to the opposing team or not being scored by the San Francisco 49ers. We had 9 of those against the Buccaneers this past Sunday. 51 points. They suck. It is like the Niners have to overcome their own special teams to win a game like this. A desperate team like the Seahawks, who have been known to do fake punts and fake kicks and everything to get ahead when they're desperate, and they know, hey, the Niners, they suck on special teams, and even San Francisco week 3 against the Rams knew, hey, watch out for the fake punt, didn't call a timeout, knew it was coming, and let it happen. The odds we see some hijinks in this game, whether it's a missed field goal or a fake punt, whatever, I would not be shocked if the Seattle Seahawks won this game via a fake punt or a fake field goal. I would say, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. But I really think that we're going to see some hijinks here. Even the last time these two teams played, Laviska Shenault, with a Seahawks team that was dead in the water, came out of halftime. San Francisco marched all the way down the field, put up 7 points, scored in the red zone. We all said, hoo, here we go. Time to light these birds on fire. Cook some birdie tonight. No. Matthew Wright kicks the ball inbounds. Shenault runs it 97 yards for a touchdown. And we all said, well, saw that coming. Oh, crap. And here's the thing, is that while Jake Moody has his own problems, can't make field goals, every time he trots out there, that crowd's going to be going nuts, knowing he ain't that good. Knowing he's rattled, knowing that even that game-winning field goal he made against the Buccaneers was this close to being missed. Go back and watch that sucker. It was like it was like right here. It was like, let's try to get here. It was like right there. It was like, dude, like, I don't know if you're hurt or not, but like, don't be out there if you ain't feeling good. Go get Matthew Wright back, or Anders Carlson back off IR, whatever they're doing. Find somebody. But
the holidays are back at Starbucks, and there's so much to share. With classics like Caramel Brulee Latte, Peppermint Mocha, and Chestnut Praline Latte, we're celebrating everyone's flavor of festivity. Order yours in the app.
Then you look at the reports this week on the injuries. Oh, who hasn't practiced all week? Mitch Wishnowsky hasn't practiced all week, the punter? Because he got a back injury? I mean, my goodness, I hope he gets healthy. But they had to sign Pat O'Donnell off of the scrap heap somewhere. 9-year NFL vet, has a 45.1 punt yard average with 36% of his punts nailed inside the 20. Knowing San Francisco's luck, all the people they've signed, Carlson, Matthew Wright, maybe O'Donnell, if that trend continues, are going to be better than the guy they started. They have a 3rd-round kicker and a 4th-round punter. All I'm saying is the door is wide open. In fact, San Francisco's letting dudes in, saying, hey, take advantage of our bad special teams. It's right there. Whatever you want to do. San Francisco is going to have to score, I think, 28 points in this game if they want to win. I think this is a 1-score game. I think San Francisco wins this game 28-20. I think Pearsall has, and this is the great thing about this, that touchdown play by Pearsall last week was awesome. It was incredible. I think that one or two things can be true for Ricky Pearsall. Is that he's in a stage of his career, 3rd game now I think it is, where he disappears at times. Where in that first half, he had like 4 or 5 targets, 6 targets, I believe. Then he got 2 on the very last drive of the game. I think for the Niners, it's really important because Pearsall can do so many things for you. I want to see them design plays for him. Now, obviously, every single play is different. I'm not going to sit here and dive into every single play. It's supposed to go here and this was that read, whatever. No. Pearsall is a game-changing kind of player. And I think if they want to hit the Seahawks hard early, I think it's getting the football into Pearsall's hands. That 4-3 speed plays, people were like watching highlights like, wow, I didn't know he had that in him. And I'm like, he was doing that in Florida. Everything you saw against the Buccaneers was everything we saw in Florida when he was great out there. So really, I know they're going to get Debo involved. They always do, and Kittle will be great in the red zone and whatnot. But getting Juwan and Pearsall consistent passes and reps is so important. I think there's a real chance that while Purdy's favorite receiver so far has been Jennings, I do think there is an opportunity for Ricky Pearsall to become that by year's end. I think what he does, the skill set he has, is very similar to Brandon Ayuk, and we knew how much Purdy loved throwing Ayuk's way. If Pearsall can just be 3/4 what Ayuk was last year, I think Pearsall can become what Ayuk was in the offense in regards to how he plays, what he plays, when he's used. Like Pearsall can be the next great wide receiver in this group they currently have. He has that skill set, and I want to see him utilized more in this offense. But Juwan Jennings is great. Always a mismatch. You can't put a safety on him. I really think San Francisco, this is a great thing, that if the Seattle Seahawks sell out to stop the run, you are just giving Brock Purdy the middle of the field. And if you do that, well, it's night-night, game over. Steph Curry. This is night-night. It's over. Brock in this offense loves to target the middle of the football field. Like, you're going to give him Kittle and Pearsall and Jennings and Debo over the middle? It's over. So I'm really intrigued as to what, with the Seahawks linebacker shift they've made, what are they going to do? Was that simply, hey, they're not tackling, hey, they're better run defense, get young guys in there and do some stuff and get some athletes involved in that room? Because Ernest Jones IV is a fine linebacker. He was good with the Rams and whatnot, but he's not a top 10 linebacker in football. I really think that it'll be interesting to see what the Seahawks game plan is. Because the great thing with San Francisco is the way they played, or the way they currently play, is that if you give them the run, well, here's 230 yards and 35 attempts on the ground with Mason and Grando and CMC. And if you sell out to stop the run, well, then here's Brock Purdy, George Kittle for 35 yards and touchdown pass. Like, San Francisco, I do think, forget the paper, just personnel-wise, has the mismatches almost everywhere. And I think that if whatever the Seattle Seahawks choose, if they blitz heavy, if they run defend, and like whatever their choice is, you can't stop both. They ain't got that personnel. So, second matchup against these two teams, really intriguing to see what happens. Papa J says here that I think Kyle's going to be less conservative and go for it on fourth down. Wouldn't that be something? For a team like the Seattle Seahawks that are desperate, they don't want to lose, they can't lose, wouldn't that be funny if Kyle Shanahan was the more desperate, if you will, coach in this game, saying, you know what, I don't want to give them a chance. I want to put them away early. I want to score fast and quick. 4th and 2, your opponent's 33. Do you trot out Jake Moody? Or do you let Purdy and CMC work their magic? That's going to happen in this game. I guarantee you. And if it happens, we're going to be talking about, does Kyle trust Jake Moody? I guarantee you. Like that is one thing I think will happen. It'll be like 3rd and 6. You won't get the first down. Purdy will scramble pretty close. And San Francisco won't go for, or San Francisco will not give Jake Moody a chance. It's 4th and 2. Like Seattle's 33, Seattle's 32-yard line, and it's going to be 4th down, go for it. Honestly, how can you trot Jake back out there? They're going to have to, but early in the game, late in the game, if they're leading by 4 points late in the game, they'll go for it on 4th down. If they're tied or they're down by 3 in the first quarter, first half, and it's on, again, the 30-yard line, they'll go for it on 4th down. This team, the Niners, has a real chance. Again, put the Seahawks behind early. It'll go a long way. They'll be rattleable. They'll get rattled, and San Francisco should win this football game. I have them not kicking a field goal at all. That's my own wishful thinking, mind you, because I'm mortified that Jake Moody's out there all the time now. I think San Francisco wins 28-20, pushes the Seattle Seahawks down another peg, last place in the NFC West, gets them to 4-6 on the year. They will have lost 6 of 7 games. That's what you want to do. San Francisco will do to the Seahawks what they should have done to the Rams in week 3 or 4. Put them puppies away early. Put them so far behind, it's like, well, season's over with. I think San Francisco can do that. Well, it isn't that simple. It isn't that easy. I do think San Francisco wins this game. They have history against Seattle. They have owned Seattle, looking for their 3rd straight season sweep over the Seattle Seahawks. This is a game where I think San Francisco wins. I think it's close. I think San Francisco leads the game for the majority of the time, but Seahawks always have that 2 or 3 drive run in them. San Francisco special teams will mess up once or twice and we'll say, oh. But I think San Francisco wins this game 28-20. I think they're half a game behind the Cardinals for first place in the NFC West. I'm not sure if they're playing. I haven't checked what they're doing this week, but we are kind of building towards that game. But I talked about when the second half started, San Francisco has this 3-game stretch. Buccaneers NFC, Seahawks NFC, Packers NFC. You win those 3 games. Commanders just lost. You beat the Bucs last week. The Rams lost. You beat the Seahawks this week. Maybe the Cardinals lose. Maybe you get lucky and the Vikings lose. Like, you're in a spot where, you can see wild card teams start to, this is where the good and the great start to separate. It's where the good and the playoff fringe start to become very clear and obvious who is who, right? We've waited all year to find out, everyone's kind of 4-5 and 5-4 and 6-4. Who are these teams? I think now this 3-game stretch is who we finally see is real and who's not. If San Francisco beats the Bucs and the Seahawks, they got the Packers in 2 weeks' time. They beat the Packers. They're 3-0 against the NFC to start the second half of the year. That's a perfect place. They're set up to make a run here. You can lose against the Bills, whatever, who cares? Beat the NFC. That's where you want to be. Does that rhyme? Beat the NFC is where you want to be? I don't know. It's not supposed to, but here we are. But San Francisco wins this game 28-20. I think Purdy is efficient as ever. I'm hoping he can clear up them first half struggles. Give me 3.5, 4 quarters of consecutive efficient play. We'll love that. Still thinking same thing for CMC. No more than 20 touches. I want to see more of Guerrero, not just in the red zone. And it all starts up front. Bosa has to play. If Bosa don't play, bye-bye. DEFCON, whatever you want to call it, whatever, sound the alarms, like Nicki Minaj pounding the alarm. Oh my God, something's going wrong. You are going to ask a lot from Gross Matos and the offense to carry this team and really make a statement. I believe in the offense. I love Juwan Jennings and Pearsall. I believe in those guys so much. I believe in Juwan Jennings and Pearsall more right now than I trust Deebo Samuel. And I hate saying that. But I do. But I really, really do. All right, Papa J, I may not be Slim Shady, but hey, we're having a good time here. But I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Papa J, Tommy Huxley. Who else we have up in here? Bobo, thank you so much. Keys, a Niners fan. Glenn Flanagan. So many more at the very top. Joseph Ernberg, thank you all so much for watching and listening. Hope you had a wonderful time doing so. If you did, like, share, subscribe on the audio podcasting platforms. Leave that 5-star review. You can follow us on social media at 49ers.access is the Instagram. 49ers_access is the X or Twitter, and use that promo code 49ersaccess, 49 ERSACCESS at SeatGeek.com to save yourself $20 off your first purchase. And if you're waiting to see who plays this Sunday, whether it's Trent Williams, Nick Bosa, Juwan Jennings, who had an ankle injury, didn't practice today. If you're waiting to see who plays, who doesn't play, the latest news of your favorite teams, go to sportspider.com, your one-stop shop for all your favorite teams' latest news, articles, podcasts, and YouTube videos. With all that said, thank you for watching, sharing, subscribing. Have a great weekend. Enjoy some football. Don't party too hard. Make some nachos. Eat some hot dogs. Whatever you do, drink a beer. Go nuts. Whatever you do, but be safe. Be safe. And enjoy Niners Seahawks this Sunday at Levi Stadium. And hopefully Monday we're talking a Niners victory over the hated Seattle Seahawks and a third consecutive season sweep over them Seattle Seahawks. My name is Sterling Bennett. And as always, until next time, stay faithful.